Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, we're going to have a little bit of fun talking about the leaked image of the DJI Mavic 2. Now, I've gotten a ton of questions from you guys over the last 48 hours asking me if I think the image is real, and if it is real, what does it mean for the upcoming announcement from DJI? Now, we all know that they postponed the 18th event because there were some things they wanted to tweak before they actually released the product. And then on the heels of that comes this leaked photo of a purported Mavic 2. Now, I don't know if the image is real or not, and I know a lot of you have that same question. I do have a couple of friends that are pretty reliable sources outside of DJI that are kind of in the industry that sent me those pictures and said, yeah, these are something you can look into because this is probably a pretty good image of that product. But I don't know. I mean, again, I'm outside the company. I'm only speculating like a lot of other people did. But I thought it might be fun to take a good look at that picture and treat it as if it was a real product, and then look at what they've changed on that product in the picture and how that affects what the next generation of Mavic might look like. So that's what I'm going to do in this clip. And again, this is all speculation on my part, but I put my geek hat on when I look at these kind of things and try to compare it to what's out today, look at changes in the engineering that have taken place over the last year and a half, and then apply that to a product as if I were going to build a new product. Would these things make sense? And honestly, when I look at that picture, a lot of the things that is in that picture really are things that I've talked about before that I think are improvements that need to be made on the next generation of Mavic, and I'll go through those individually. So the first thing I want to talk about is the airframe changes. Now, we're lucky that in the picture you've got the actual drone itself and a bunch of other components, which I'll talk about, but you've got two sets of hands in there, which gives perspective of how big that airframe is. And it's clearly larger than the original Mavic Pro. So it's going to be a little bit larger, the motors look larger, the battery looks larger, and that all makes sense because the first thing I want to talk about is the camera. And I've said from the beginning that the first company that gets a 1-inch sensored camera on a foldable drone is going to own the market for the next 24 months minimum. And that's why I was so disappointed with the Autel Evo product, because when we went to CES and I talked to their engineers, we actually saw 3 models of that foldable drone. There was one with the 1/2.3 sensor, there was a 1-inch sensor version, and there was a 360 camera version of it as well. And I pleaded with them to not release the 1/2.3 version because I wanted them to be able to compete in the market space, but lo and behold, that's the one they released. If they'd have come out with the 1-inch sensor, that would have really been a major competitor to whatever DJI is planning for this next event, but they didn't. But if you look closely at the picture, you'll see that the DJI drone, this purported drone from DJI, looks like it has a 1-inch sensor on there. Beyond that, if you notice on the table next to it, there's another sensor sitting there, which leads me to believe that it may be a removable gimbal, which is something, again, I talked to Autel about, and I've said for a long time that if DJI can make a removable gimbal on either the Phantom or on the Mavic product, they're going to have a home run on their hands. And it sure looks like this product has a removable gimbal, because if you look very closely at that gimbal, it looks like the back of it snaps into the quad and can snap out of the quad, and maybe another type of camera can snap in. But then my questions would be, if I've got a 1-inch sensor on the drone, why would I ever remove it to put a smaller sensor on there? So maybe the options will be a 1-inch sensor as a standard, and then an IR, kind of an infrared FLIR type camera as an additional sensor, and maybe even a 360 sensor you can snap on later on. And that would be a great thing, because you'd buy one airframe and you could change out the sensors as you need it, and you could upgrade the sensors whenever you felt like it. So that would be kind of cool. The other thing might be 2 versions of it coming out. Maybe there's a Mavic Pro 2 coming out that has the removable sensors that you can actually swap them out, and maybe just a standard Mavic 2 that has a fixed sensor on the front of it that can't be swapped out. So all these things are kind of up for grabs. But the other thing this opens up is what I call the karma effect. Now, I was a huge fan of the karma out of the gate, and I know that quad didn't pan out for a lot of different reasons, but I felt like what they really did with that quad and innovated was they came out with a complete system, a kind of an ecosystem where you could take your GoPro camera, you could snap it on a stabilized gimbal, which then mounted onto the karma. You could use it on a stick when you were walking around in a forest or whatever. You could snap it into the drone, put it up in the air, and you could reuse all those components. If this camera is removable, it may be intelligent enough where it can actually be snapped onto a stick like an Osmo, and you can reuse that 1-inch sensor camera on an Osmo, maybe the infrared sensor if they come out with a FLIR camera on the Osmo as well. So there's an opportunity, if they make that gimbal removable and the camera assembly removable, that you can reuse it a bunch of different places. Now, there's one other place you could use that, and I'll talk about that sort of to the end of the clip, and it has to do with that sort of mystery wheel off in the corner there. All right, the next thing I'll talk about is the crash avoidance. Now, looking at that picture, I know a lot of people have been clamoring for 360 coverage for crash avoidance. I'm kind of on the fence there. I mean, I use crash avoidance when I'm out flying, but it's not something I rely on. I mean, I'm keeping things in visual line of sight, and I've got a view through the camera, so I'm always careful about where I'm flying. It is nice when I'm backing up to have some kind of crash avoidance behind me, because that's the one blind spot I've got, but I don't rely on crash avoidance. So if they come out with a 360 crash avoidance, kind of a cool thing on paper. It's not something that I really care as much about as I do, say, with a larger sensor, a 1-inch sensor, or a better quality camera. But anyway, this one looks like it might have at least 270, maybe in 360 crash avoidance. And you'll notice immediately you've got those stereoscopic lenses on the front. If you look closely, there's also a lens sort of to the back on the side, which would give you coverage to the side. And there's also, it seems to be, a lens above as part of the battery, and that's going to be interesting. If they put a camera inside the battery, that's going to be very, very expensive. So it's hard to tell if that image ends, or the battery ends before that sensor is above it, or maybe that's just a button to power up the battery. I can't really tell without a better view of it, but I'm betting at this point you'll have certainly front, you'll have down, you should have rear, you probably have top, and you may even have sides on it. So again, it's all speculation until we get our hands on it, but that picture does show us those stereoscopic cameras on the front and one on the side, and I'm assuming there's one on the other side as well. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is sort of that mystery wheel I'd mentioned a minute ago, because a lot of people are saying, hey, what's that wheel in the corner over there? What's that all about? Well, if you remember back to 2015 or 2016 even, DJI trademarked RoboMasters, and they actually built a couple of terrestrial, for lack of a better term, trucks that you could mount cameras on that you could remotely control just like you would a drone. It didn't really develop into a product so much, and I've got a screenshot here now of one of the stores out there, a DJI store that was actually exhibiting back in the day, and that turned into a whole robot competition now, where the RoboMasters competition is a worldwide event, and it competes with a lot of other robotics competitions, like the first competition. But DJI is big on educational advantages of remote control devices and technology like this. And I'm really a fan of the company for that reason alone, that they've really taken a stand and said, look, we want to inspire kids. We want kids to be thinking in different ways. So we're going to introduce drones and remote control systems and terrestrial drones as well in the form of these RoboMasters. Well, that wheel that you see in the picture looks really, really similar to the RoboMasters product they introduced a couple of years ago. So maybe what they've done to sort of flesh out that system I was talking about a minute ago is actually made some kind of terrestrial vehicle that you can buy as an option to snap the gimbal that you can snap into your drone and into your Osmo into this terrestrial vehicle. Maybe there's a RoboMasters product coming out that's small, portable, and really fast on the ground that you can use as sort of an RC truck or something to put that unit in. But that wheel looks eerily similar to the RoboMasters wheel. So my bet would be that if that's what they're exhibiting there, maybe it's a future product that's not going to be part of this release, but how cool would it be to have the same camera be able to be used on a stick, on the drone, and on some kind of terrestrial vehicle as well? That'd be very, very cool. Then the last thing I'll talk about, and I can't believe this is getting as much press as it is, but everybody's trying to speculate of where the picture came from and who leaked it. And a lot of people have pointed to that hand in the picture with the pink nails as being iJustine. I don't think that's the case. We all know that Ken Heron favors pink nail polish. So I'm betting that's a Ken Heron hand in that picture. And if you look at the gentleman sitting across the table, those are clearly the young, supple hands of a Billy Kyle. So those two guys are probably involved in this somehow. I'm making that up. I don't want to get him in trouble, but I thought I'd have a little fun with that. But anyway, who cares whose hand's in the picture? If this is a real picture, and that really is the Mavic 2 that's coming out, I'm blown away by it. Just by looking at what I can see so far, removable camera, bigger camera, crash avoidance 360, maybe a RoboMasters thing coming. All of this is really exciting, and I don't want to sound like one of those guys who's chasing Sasquatch and a conspiracy theory guy, but I just have so much fun thinking about what they may be releasing soon. Remember, it's been 2.5 years since the Mavic came out, or almost 2.5 years since the Mavic Pro originally came out. They're due for an upgrade. I fully believe with the competition that's in the market today between the brand new products from Parrot and Autel that are on the market and a few others that are coming this summer, that DJI has to plant a flag firmly in the ground and say, we own this foldable space. The only way they're going to do that is to blow our socks off with a Mavic Pro 2. And I expect that to happen. And again, the 18th was delayed a little bit. Not a big deal for me. They're tweaking a few things. It's going to happen soon. I know a lot of people are saying we're not going to see it until next year. I think it's going to happen this summer because this is the time when people buy drones. So We'll have to see how close I am either way. But if you have thoughts on this or comments, drop them below. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can with any questions you may ask me. Hopefully you've got a pretty clear picture of what I think that picture means. And I just love putting these kind of clips together. Now, I've finished for today. I'm going to go back outside and fly a little bit more. I got a couple of quads I want to put up. But thanks an awful lot for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, we've been invited to the DJI event that was moved out. Hopefully, I'm still going to be invited to the next one when they reschedule it. But we'll be covering it live, and I'll give you the updates as I hear them. Hit that subscribe button down there and join the family here at Drone Valley. But thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy flying.